Oh, we can start now. JoJo is here. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, there we go. Get this chair. Thank you for the accompanying circus music.
Good morning.
So glad to see everyone here this morning. So let us rise as you are able, and we will sing our joy song. It's up on the wall.
We were walking and I didn't have time to go and change clothes. Does Was he wild or not?
Good morning. Welcome to Community Church. Any visitors? I'm looking. I don't see any new faces, but just not old friends. I'm glad each of you are here today. Today we have our special musicians will be Julie Hickox, and our reader is Nancy, and of course Maurita, Dr. Wiggins will be our speaker. If you have your phones now, it would be a good time to turn them on mute or turn them off. Nancy?
Okay.
So today what I'd like to read to you, which I found inspirational, is from a book that I have been reading, and it's by an Episcopalian bishop. If you know him, John Shelby Spong, if you're familiar with any of his writings. Yes, you are. Okay. He's written about 18 books. The last few have shocked Episcopalians beyond belief. He's really an insightful person. He was a bishop in Richmond a number of years ago, and he had a good friend who was in the hospital in Charlottesville. And so he made the trip from Richmond to Charlottesville to visit her. And usually he would spend a short time with people in the hospital, because usually people in the hospital, they don't like for people to visit for a long time. He ended up spending 3 hours with his friend Cornelia. And they talked and had, he said, one of the most deepest conversations he ever had in his entire life. And so he looked at the clock and it was 5, and he had to drive back to Richmond, and the story picks up here. It was a slightly longer trip returning because of the traffic, so I had more time to think. On that journey home, I compared the significance of our conversation, during which I had entered so deeply into her fear and anxiety, participating in a connection that made it at one and the same time both profoundly painful and profoundly real, with the shallowness of my prayer, which was so mundane and so perfunctory. So they talked for 3 hours in this very deep way, and then at the end he said, well, would you like a prayer? And then he just issued the standard Episcopalian prayer. So this word prayer, he said, and the shallowness of my prayer, has it in quotes, which was so mundane and so perfunctory. Which part of that visit was the prayer, I asked myself. Was it the conversation that opened both of us to the shared experience of our common humanity? Or was it those pious words that I addressed to a theistic deity whose help I desperately needed? I felt that the conversation we shared had expanded and enhanced both of our lives. I sensed that the activity that I had called prayer had contracted us both and had forced us back into the stance of wearing our defensive shields and our security blankets. Clearly, the conversation in which we had engaged each other and a painful reality on that day was holy time. The conclusion seems to be obvious. The conversation was in fact the real prayer, while the thing I had called prayer was little more than a pious triviality. It was in the conversation that the meaning of God was shared between two people. It was in the conversation that the boundaries we humans erect to keep ourselves safe from the threat of another were transgressed. I vowed that very day never again to engage in the activity that I had previously called prayer until I could pray with the same depth of honesty that I had shared with Cornelia at her bedside. That day proved to be a turning point in my life and in my pilgrimage into learning to pray in a non-theistic world. To be able to live the meaning of prayer rather than just to pray became the goal of my lifetime and indeed the goal of my priesthood. Prayer is the sharing of being, the sharing of life, and the sharing of love. The hospital experience became a starting place for me in regard to the meaning of prayer. Prayer, understood this new way, became profoundly real for me, while the form that prayer had traditionally taken began to shift dramatically. From that day to this, prayer has been far more than being, far more about being than it has been about doing. This was for me a radical but necessary shift, which gave me a new starting place to enter a great and even transformative adventure into the depths of my faith. Experience always triumphs explanation. Is prayer, as we have traditionally defined it, a holy activity, or is prayer the preparation for a time of engaging in holy activity? Increasingly, I am moving to the latter conclusion. It is life that is holy. It is love that is life-giving. Having the courage to be all that I can be is the place where God and life come together for me. If that is so, are not living, loving, and being the essence of prayer and the meaning of worship? When Paul enjoined us to pray without ceasing, did he mean to engage in the activity of praying unceasingly? Or did he mean that we are to see all of life as prayer, calling the world to enter the place where life, love, and being reveal the meaning of God? Is Christianity not coming to the place where I meets another's thou, and in that moment God is present? I pray daily. My way of doing that is to bring into my mind those I love, to cradle them in my awareness of the holiness in which my life seems to be lived. Do I expect miracles to occur, lives to be changed, or wholeness suddenly to replace brokenness? No, but I do expect to be made more whole, to be set free, to share my life more deeply with others, to be enabled to love beyond my boundaries and to watch the barriers that divide me from those I once avoided lowered. Prayer to me is the practice of the presence of God. Where have we heard that? The act of embracing transcendence and the discipline of sharing with another the gifts of living, loving, and being. Can that understanding of prayer, so free of miracle and magic, make any real difference in our world? I believe it can, it does, and it will. I was really amazed after I read that. It was really, no wonder he's shaking up Episcopalians because, I mean, it was just encouraging. Let's just hope people will listen to what he has to say.
If you'll turn to your hymnals, hymn number 97, Abundant Life. We're going to sing verse 1 and 2. Hymn number 97, Abundant Life. Please stand.
this morning, I'm going to read just one brief line from Genesis 28:16. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. This is what happened actually to Jacob. He was fleeing for his life because he cheated his brother out of their father's blessing. And things were looking pretty hairy at home. And so he took refuge with his father, rather his mother's brother, who lived in Haran, which was quite a distance. So he lay down to sleep one night in this place. And he had this wonderful dream about a ladder going between heaven and earth, and angels moving up and down the ladder. And he woke up and said, "Here, God is in this place, and I knew it not." But you see, all of us are right where God is. And we don't know it. We forget it. We might hear it in church, but then it goes out the other ear. But that's something that one can stand on, can depend on, can come to know that in wonderful events and difficult events, where I am is where God is. God is within. God is without. God is always available. God is always in love with you. It's something we have to remember. Because it's like if you twist your ankle, you can't get around very well, and you need a crutch or a cane or something to help you get around. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I forgot it. But that's a support, that's a crutch, that's a cane, that helps us get past forgetting that we are led, that we are loved, that we are His favorite child. And every one of us is His favorite child. But we have to remember, I knew it not. Keep remembering. Keep remembering. Shall we say our statement of being? God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God, and am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. this is our time of quiet, inner solitude, prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it. It's so seldom in our lives, unless we make that space, that we simply get quiet, relax. But when we connect that inner quietude with the vast marvel, the incredible power, the joy, the love of which we are a part always, unless we connect it with God, we are indeed shortchanging ourselves, because from it comes such inner unfolding and peace and healing, joy, gifts of good, of understanding, of creativity that we never have unless we can get quiet with God. Let's take that deep breath. And as we let it out slowly, we find ourselves relaxing physically. And then we, with that second breath, begin to relax mentally as well. A sense of peace, tranquility begins to fill us, along with the blessings of God's presence, God's good, God's understanding and peace. In these moments of quietude, we can bring to mind the things that trouble us momentarily, not for very long, for we put them in God's hands. And then we back off, knowing that what we can't do, God can. God will. It gives us a sense that this infinitely greater power is truly a part of our lives. But it's up to us to open the door, to relax the barriers in our minds, in our feelings, and allow ourselves to be led, to take that improbable idea that comes to us and try to make it a reality, to move ahead. To move ahead with God and discover that greater good than we have experienced, than we could have even imagined, begins to unfold. Synchronicity after synchronicity. Fortuitous accidents. Good coming to us from every direction. But its birthplace is in that silence within. that silence that allows creativity, a sense of inner assurance that faith that God has prepared for us a verdant way filled with the blessings of life. This day, we take others along with us on our journey through a blessed life, knowing that health is unfolding, opportunity is coming forth, abundance is our experience, love nourishes us. Peace fills us with a sense that today has been fine and tomorrow will be even better. This is what we know for ourselves, our friends and loved ones, for those whom we say, to whom we say, I'll pray for you. For those who are on our Valley Community Church prayer list, for strangers, for our country and its leaders, for the whole world, which at this moment seems to be in such turmoil in so many places. People striving for greater freedom, a better life. In the 90 seconds of silence that we're going to have in just a moment or so, I invite you to mentally, emotionally, physically open yourselves to that abounding good that God wants for you, to the right path made plain, to the best decision made equally plain, and certainly everything enshrined with gratitude for what we are enjoying and what is yet to come. So begin now with openness, love, peace, acceptance. unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. What a wonderful promise. Is it a promise that we have accepted? One that we bank on? One that we often need, but forget to accept? Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, so we may put down our burdens and let them be carried by that infinite source of love that will willingly, happily help us through whatever we are experiencing, both good and bad. This day, we say yes. We say yes to all of that and so much more. We say thank you, beloved friend, companion, helper, leader, guide. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you that it is so. Amen. And now shall we say the Lord's Prayer? Here it is right behind me. Our Father, who is everywhere, your name is sacred, your kingdom is come, your will is throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. You give us our needful bread from day to day, and you forgive us our offenses, even as we forgive our offenders. And you let us not enter into materialism, but you separate us from evil. Because yours are the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise from all ages, throughout all ages, in faith, trust, and truth.
Amen.
Well, today I'm going to be talking about better than biscuits. There was a visiting pastor who was attending a men's breakfast in farm country. And he asked one of the impressive older farmers to say some grace that morning. And after they were all seated, the older farmer began, "Lord, I hate buttermilk." The pastor opened one eye and wondered what in the world is going on. And then the farmer said even louder, "Lord, I hate lard." Now the pastor was beginning to get worried. However, without missing a beat, the farmer prayed on, saying, "Lord, you know I just don't care very much for white flour." And just as the pastor was about to stand up and stop everything, the farmer continued, "But Lord, when you mix them all together and bake them up, I do love fresh biscuits." So, Lord, when things come up we don't like, when life gets hard, when we just don't understand what you're saying to us, we just need to relax and wait until you're done mixing. And probably it'll be something even better than biscuits. What's taking place at this time in human history, lucky for us, is that God has brought about a kind of mixing that is the blending of religion and science. That is, science is beginning to prove religion or spirituality, if you wish. Now, this has gotten a lot more national and international press and attention than it got before. Certainly with books and with lectures, different kinds of testing around the world. And I believe that perhaps what religion could not convince people about concerning God, perhaps science is beginning to open the door to their beliefs. Perhaps this is ushering in a time when there will be fewer atheists and agnostics in our world, and many more people spiritually committed to seriously I should say, committed to a spiritual path. That these ideas will convince them of the truth of God as something that is actual, is real. Actually, for so many people who have been convinced about the presence of God, the existence of this greater power will become more and more and more a reality. What an amazingly different world that could make. Could you see that happening? And as time goes on, it will be much better than Biscuits. In 1917, the great physicist Max Planck wrote this: "All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind," he went on, "is the matrix of all matter." Well, what is a matrix anyway? Webster tells us it's a substance or a structure in which something is embedded or enclosed. Mind, in Max Planck's definition, the substance that we are made of, body, mind, and spirit, as well as the whole universe, is matter, indeed, or, as he put it, mind. Does that kind of remind you, you hear a sort of a little, a whisper of a memory of Paul saying, and he says this in Acts, "In him we live and move and have our being." And that, to my understanding, is exactly what Max Planck is saying. God is the matrix, the structure, and we exist. All of life exists in this matrix. Now, in the 1990s, Western science began to affirm, under laboratory conditions, what ancient texts and metaphysics have been saying for millennia. We are surrounded with a field of energy that responds to our inner world. It was also in the early 1990s that a Russian scientist by the name of Vladimir Poponin started conducting experiments to see if human DNA had an effect on the world around it. And he discovered, yes, it did. Dr. Poponin says, and I quote, "A non-local field of energy pervades the universe." Some call this force the mind of God. Until recently, one of our greatest mysteries was determining if this force actually exists. Now that science has proven that it does, our next question is, what is it made of? Dr. Paponen goes on. To answer that question, it's best to start with the basics of matter. We are all, at our most fundamental level, vibrating particles of light. These vibrating particles create patterns that become the atoms that make up the molecules of rocks and plants and animals and you and me. The mind of God is a highly refined form of vibration that is everywhere all the time. Sounds like omnipresence to me. It's a field of conscious and intelligent energy that responds to genuine states of human emotion. As the experiments I've personally done, he says, your emotions and feelings have a direct and measurable effect on the world around you. Is some of this sounding familiar? You see, there's a constant dialogue going on between your heart, your brain, and this intelligent energy field. The dialogue within your body creates effects that extend well beyond your body. The mind of God is the conduit. So, what Dr. Paponen calls us is vibrating particles of light that are one with a highly refined form of vibration that he calls the mind of God. And furthermore, he says that our thoughts, that our emotions are constantly communicating with divine mind as well as affecting the world around us. I wish I had time to describe the experiments that he made to prove this to himself. I'm afraid time does not permit, but suffice it to say that for close to the 30 years that he has been working on this, his beliefs that are based on his own experiments have echoed in scientific language exactly what we believe in a spiritual matter. This is what we see our spirit as interacting with this larger universe, and we're expressing it, though, in our own unique language, the language of divine science. Melinda Kramer, 135 years ago, said it in her own unique way. Melinda Kramer, of course, was our founder. But these concepts about God resemble each other so interestingly, so closely, actually. But Melinda Kramer talked about what she called the law of expression. She said that God was equally and at the same time the creator, the act of creation, and the resulting creation. Everything was one. And she said also, this is ongoing all the time. Always, always, God is creating it. It's an ongoing process, and we are part of that process. In so many words, she is saying that everything we will ever process through our five senses is either God or God in action. Now, if I would call attention to it, you can, for a moment, feel the chair you're sitting on. Feel it. Usually you're unconscious of it, of course, but feel it for just a moment. That's God in action. Try wiggling your toes in your shoes. You can feel your toes, you can feel the shoe, you can feel your foot maybe on the floor or in the air. Feel it for just a moment. That's God energy. If you take a breath in through your nostrils, and then let it out again feel the coolness of the air in your nose. And what is that? Air. It's also God energy manifesting as you breathe. God in action. Everything we have ever done or ever will do or have done in the past. And so much more than just our activities, our thoughts, our feelings, etc. All of this is part of God in and through us, acting as us, interacting with the world. All God energy, God in action. With us, in us, around us. You are one with God, not just physically, but in every other dimension of your being. Now, we have given Melinda Kramer kind of backseat. We don't generally hear a great deal about her. But in her time, she was an extraordinary person. We have to give her credit for being the very first voice to speak this truth, the omnipresence of God. And it was a revolutionary idea at the time. Just like our cornerstone says, God is all. God is all there is. Now, Mary Baker Eddy was the reigning queen of New Thought at the time, founder of Christian Science. But she was saying at this very same time, and very emphatically, there is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in matter. There is no truth in the material world. This is an illusion, she says. The body isn't real. That's what she said. And most of the other New Thought groups were echoing that belief. But Melinda Kramer responded equally emphatically that everything is real because everything is God expressing. This is God energy, right here, right now. That's what omnipresence means. And that's what most of New Thought has come to realize, to believe in this day. But she was a pioneer. She brought that idea to the front. However, now we have people like Dr. Poponin adding something that Mrs. Kramer really didn't speak about. He's bringing emotion. He's bringing feelings into the picture. She didn't talk about that very much. Saying that the mind of God, this is Poponin, mind of God is a field of consciousness and intelligent energy that responds to genuine states of human emotion. Doesn't that make a convincing argument that prayers that are said automatically by rote, just as Nancy was talking about, those prayers, that we just kind of mouth, say, without mental and emotional involvement, are a waste of time. They're a waste of breath. We need to listen to what we are outwardly praying and agree with it inwardly. Allow it to resonate throughout our being. To feel those words. For instance, how do we say the statement of being? Just a bunch of words, get through that part of the service. Or do we listen to what we're saying and agree? Say yes within ourselves. I am the individualized expression of God. Big, big difference, huge difference. Or the Lord's Prayer. Saying yes within ourselves. I agree. I am that. That's truth. Even more important is making sure that our private prayers are Just talking to God like He's our dearest friend. Nothing formal, no. Nothing formal at all. Talking to God like He was our dearest friend because He is our dearest friend, our most faithful, our most loving friend. Our dialogue with God should be filled with deep feeling, just as you have that feeling for those who are close to you, those you love and who love you. That's yet another reason why it's, of course, so important to keep our thoughts positive, because they affect us. They affect everything around us, and they affect our relationship with God. Oh, so we should never talk to God about things that we're afraid of or worried about. We should never talk to Him about what we're going to do about this situation or that person. Or we should not pray for somebody who's important to us who's heard a negative medical diagnosis. We shouldn't pray because that isn't positive. Oh no. We should pray. Now, Jesus referred to exactly that in the book of Matthew. He said, whoever asks receives. Wow. Whoever asks receives. He who seeks finds, and he who knocks, the door is opened. Or, who is the man among you who, when his son asks him for bread, will hand him a stone? Or if he should ask for some fish, will he hand him a snake? If therefore you who err know how to give good gifts to your sons, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask Him? So, we should absolutely ask. We should absolutely talk to God about these things, pray about them. Pray for ourselves, pray for others, but we need to consistently remind ourselves to relax and trust. The promises have been given. Can we trust in them? Can we trust that when the Lord is done mixing, it'll be probably something better than biscuits? In fact, the result will be absolutely right. The only thing that Dr. Paponin doesn't say, and he's not alone, no, because none of the other scientists that I've read who've written about the reality of a universal consciousness, no scientist has described God as other than impersonal energy or a field, a mind, a universal organizing power. In truth, God is infinite, all-encompassing love. That is what God is. Unconditional love. That's His central quality. That's what we count on. That love that is undying. That's what we've always received from Him, and that's what we will always receive from Him. That we can bank on. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one." Would that every one of us should know these truths that Ralph Waldo Emerson spoke. We should know them to our depths. that would be much, much better than biscuits. Let's go within and give thanks that we live in such a time when in periodicals and books and lectures, over the television and the radio and in social media, we hear about these things. We hear about the reality of God. We hear men of science, women of science, speaking spiritual truth. How grateful we are to live in such a time, for it is a blessing as it, bit by bit, person by person, changes the consciousness of the world and brings about a time when love of God and God's love for us is made manifest every day, all the time, through our actions and our thoughts. Beloved father, mother, friend, companion, teacher, thank you. Thank you for this and so much more. Amen.
Now is the time in our service for the blessings of the gifts, sort of like butter on the biscuits. Will you turn to your orders of service and recite with me? Today, I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept His will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to His flow of abundance in my now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent, blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God.
Bless yourself by blessing other people. Take a name and pray for them for this week. And notice the blessings that are coming to you.
Good morning. Good morning. We're going to start out with something that's very important. It's Birthday Sunday. We have both the people that have birthdays this month are here, Amy Jo and Laurel. So let's sing happy birthday to them. And please come next door for a birthday cake and coffee, or tea, or whatever else is over there, and help yourself. We got first off, it's nice to have Kenrick here. He had a little accident a few weeks ago, or illness, and so we're glad to see him back and healthy and everything. So, yay! All right, coming up, we've got a busy month coming up, and this weekend is very busy. Come Friday night, well, first off, Tuesday we have journaling class at 6:30. Thursday night we have movie night at 6:30. Friday night we have Dr. Helms, Neil Helms, speaking at the IANS group at, I think it's going to be in here at 7 o'clock. We encourage you to come and listen to this gentleman, and also to bring friends. Then on Saturday we have another store sale. We've been doing a once a month sale for the store to raise money to pay for our chairs for the sanctuary. And as you know, the chairs have been ordered. We've had 12 people that have paid for chairs, and we have raised, I think, over $5,200 and for the chairs. And so we've got about $1,600 or $1,700 more to go. But I have confidence it's going to happen. So we're having a sale on Saturday from 8:30 to 11:30. We encourage you to come out and buy something, even if it's only 10 cents, whatever. And anyhow, all this is going to the purchase of the chairs. Also starting this week, starting Monday, and it's supposed to be done by Friday evening, the sanctuary will be painted. As you can tell, everything's off the walls and all the electricity showing and everything, but anyhow, we've got it all ready for her to paint. She's starting tomorrow, so hopefully by this time next week, when you come, it'll be a different color and we'll look gorgeous. So anyhow, we're looking forward to getting all that done. And the chair, like I said, the chairs have been ordered. Don't know yet when they will. Probably sometime after the first of the year, but they will make a big addition to. These chairs have been here since the beginning, what, 1980? So yeah, so it's time for new ones. So anyhow, that's all in the works. Also, I asked you when we leave today if some of y'all will help kind of move those, especially the back row chairs, towards the middle, so that we can, Kathy will have room to paint And also, if some of you taller men will help take down these stained glass windows over here and lay them in the chairs, that way we'll have that all done, and it'll be done, so she didn't have to do that tomorrow. I want to make sure that the stained glass windows are very secure, so nothing happens to them. So if y'all would help do that, would greatly appreciate it. Appreciate Bob Brooks and Ann and Bob Dieter. They came in and helped take all this stuff down and spackle the walls and everything so we could get all this done so Kathy could just paint. So that's the harder part. I think I'd rather paint than do all this other stuff. So anyhow, but it's done, and so I appreciate all the work that everybody does, and not only with the paint, but everything that's done around here, we appreciate it very much. Going back to next weekend, we are after the store sale on Sunday. Dr. Helms will be speaking here, and next Sunday is also potluck Sunday. Did I miss anything from next week? Oh, yes, and Maurita would like for us to take Mr. Helms out to dinner on Saturday night. We haven't decided where yet, but if anybody would like to go with us, let me know today. So when we make the reservations, we can know how many people are going. We'll decide sometime after church today as to where we're going. Also, coming up, I know it's hard to believe this is November. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. I mean, we were at 90-degree weather, now it's Thanksgiving. So as always, we've been doing this for like the last 3 or 4 years. We have a Thanksgiving dinner here at the church for people that don't have a family or can't be with their families, or for whatever reason, we don't like for people to be alone on the holidays. So we have a sign-up sheet. Ann and Bob usually are in charge of that, and so anyhow, they like to have a note about how many people are coming. So if you are planning on coming to that, please sign up, and so at least we'll have a number as to how many people are going to be here. Also, this year for the poinsettias, last year we paid for small poinsettias, and we had them delivered to the League of Older Americans. Well, this year we've decided to Pam Woods works at a nursing facility, Spring Tree, and we have decided to, they have 70 residents there that live there year-round, assisted living, and so we've decided to take those, purchase the $3 flowers for those people. So we have a sign-up sheet in there for people that would like to sponsor some of those. We have a goal of reaching for 70 of them, so I'm sure we can do that. Lastly, the flowers today are sponsored by Laurel in memory of her mother's birthday, so thank you, Laurel. And also, remember, take these orders of service home. They have things on here that are going on all month. I'm not saying there won't be some additions or some changes, but they're here. Do you know anything about the ecumenical service yet?
No.
Okay, because we put it on here, but we didn't know when it's going to.
Well, it's always the Sunday evening before
Right,
Thanksgiving.
that's what we just didn't know any of the details. So, okay, cool. All right, do you have anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wilhelm is going to be talking about the history and spirituality of near-death experiences. And of course, you all know that he had a near-death experience at the age of 5. He drowned and found himself sitting in the lap of God, who told him it wasn't his time yet, he had to go back. He was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I've never met anybody who's nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm really looking forward to asking him all sorts of questions, which is why I thought it might be fun for us who would like to take him out on Saturday evening and get a chance to ask him questions and talk to him about his life and what the things he's done, which are quite extraordinary, actually. And this is a man of deep spirituality, because that connection with God that he created, or that was created when he had the near-death experiences, never waned. So I'm looking forward to it tremendously. And I hope you're all coming. Who's coming? Yeah, I really do want to fill the church and make them feel appreciated. That's what also, Voices of Faith are sponsoring another visit to another faith congregation in our community today. It's going to be 2 to 4 p.m. at the First Baptist Church of Gainsborough. And this is a National Baptist Convention church. And I'm curious about what's the difference between the National Baptist Convention and the Southern Baptist Convention. And I'm sure they have a difference of opinions about certain things. And it would be interesting to find out about that, ask questions. So, anybody who's interested, I'm going. So if anybody else is interested, I hope to see you there. Thank you.
And back to the store again, the store next Saturday is going to be open from 11:30 to 8:30 to 11:30, excuse me, 11:30, we're going home. 8:30 to 11:30, so if anybody wants to come help Ann and I, we would greatly appreciate it. Because we always have fun though, no matter what, we always just have fun. But if you could come help, or just stay for a few minutes and help us out, we would greatly appreciate it. Because it is a lot of hard work, even though it's not considered a yard sale like we have out front all the time. We've been doing this now for what, 2 or 3 months, just to raise money for, extra money for the chairs. And then we'll go back after this sale to the regular little store that Martha keeps in there. She does a great job with that. But we're going to get rid of all the stuff that's in there except for her little corner after this, so because we've got so much going on with the holidays and everything. And but anyhow, we appreciate everything that everybody has donated and people that have bought, and there's some new stuff in there, and we've got some other stuff Martha will need to be pricing, but you know, make us an offer, anything you see in there, we'll take it because we want to pay for these new chairs. Anyhow, y'all have a great day and join us for birthday cake.
Let's wrap it up. Our last hymn number 86. It is no secret. Both verses. Please stand when you find it. Wherever you want to be. There we go. Got you.
We're hand in hand. We're a community of believers. We're a family of those who turn to God and know the value of it, know the power within it, know the freedom of it. For all this, for our gifts, seen and unseen, for our opportunities, seen and unseen, for the love of God, largely unseen, but nonetheless present, for all of this and so much more, we say thank you. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.